I have been using Canon R5 for the past 18 months. A couple of days ago, I received the new Canon R5C. In this series of videos, I will compare various aspects of the real-time performance for these two cameras, specifically for shooting video, and decide which camera I will keep. I plan to sell or return one of them. To keep learning more about my camera comparison results, subscribe and hit that notification button. In this video, I will compare the image stabilization of the new Canon R5C to the Canon R5. First, dynamic shots moving with the camera handheld, and then with the camera fixed inside of the moving vehicle. Hello and welcome to Telvia. To make this comparison, I made a jig to immobilize the two cameras right next to each other, using a piece of extruded aluminum and 3 R5C quick release clamps. This allows me to hold both cameras or fix them inside of the vehicle so we can compare footage from both cameras in the same conditions. I will use Canon RF 15-35 and 24-70 f2.8 zoom lenses for this comparison. Both lenses set to 35mm focal distance in all tests shown in this video. Both lenses have a similar image stabilization capabilities, and I will test how R5 and R5C perform with lens stabilization on and with it off. A quick top-line summary about the stabilization in these two camera bodies. The Canon R5 has in-body image stabilization, or IBIS, and it also has some sort of digital image stabilization that, according to Canon, works with some non-stabilized and stabilized lenses. There's no way to turn digital IS on the R5 camera on or off when using image-stabilized lenses. There is also no way to turn the IBIS on R5 camera off without turning off the lens stabilization. On the other hand, both IBIS and digital IS work with all recording formats on Canon R5, unless the image stabilization of the lens is turned off. In contrast, the new Canon R5C does not have IBIS, and its digital IS works only in some video recording formats. For example, digital IS works on the R5C when recording in XF-AVC format, but it is not available when recording in RAW on this camera. So I'll test all image stabilization options on the R5C to better understand how it works. In the first set of tests, I compare image stabilization with RAW light format, which is my recording codec of choice on both cameras. Then I compare how well the digital IS on the R5C camera works in standard and high digital IS modes, and how the two cameras compare when all stabilization is turned off. Let's start. I'm moving and panning as smoothly as I can. Second shot on the same setting. Let's do a real run. And let's repeat the run. Panning and moving as smoothly as I can from heel to toe. Panning and moving more rapidly. Running. Jumping while running, like a normal person will be running with the camera. High digital stabilization on Canon R5C. Moving as smoothly as I can, panning, going towards the object. Moving more rapidly. Panning and running. Let's try one more time, panning and running. In the second set of tests, I switched camera positions on the rig and switched lenses between the cameras, and then repeated the tests to normalize for potential differences in lens stabilization. Best stabilization available on Canon R5C with both lens IS on and digital IS set to high, available only in XF AVC and MP3 recording formats. 35mm on both lenses, and we are going to walk a little more rapidly. Even in this mode, R5C's image stabilization still doesn't match the level of stabilization achieved on Canon R5 with both lens IS and IBIS on. Standard digital IS on Canon R5C, and I'm moving as smoothly as I can. Moving a little more rapidly, a little camera shake. And now I'm running towards the fence. Moving as smoothly as we can. Moving more rapidly and more vigorously. Pan and run with the camera and towards the fence, and push and run. I will let you make your own conclusions looking at shown in this video footage. With all stabilization off on both cameras, they perform the same in the tests as expected. Moving as smoothly as possible, heel to toe. Moving and panning a little more rapidly. Running towards the fence. And running and pushing. I was particularly interested to compare image stabilization when shooting in RAW on both cameras, and in my opinion, while Canon R5C does not have IBIS and digital IS is not available in RAW, the lens stabilization makes it possible to shoot on Canon R5C handheld. More care is required, however, when moving R5C camera to get acceptable handheld shots. When shooting handheld with R5C without moving the camera or walking with it, the lens's IS appears to provide most of stabilization when comparing to the footage from R5 with both lens IS on and IBIS on. And finally, in the third series of tests, I fixed the camera inside of a vehicle and take them for a drive to compare various stabilization options on both cameras while driving. When cameras are immobilized inside of the moving vehicle, I think that having fixed sensor in the camera like it is in Canon R5C is clearly an advantage. I have previously noticed that when Canon R5 was immobilized inside the car, there was an excessive jitter in some road footage, and this test today shed more light on what's going on. When an image stabilization is turned off on both cameras, we see that both cameras have higher jitter, but the jitter from R5 is much more pronounced than from R5C. Even when IBIS is turned off, the sensor in the R5 is still able to move due to forces coming from the vehicle bouncing on the road, and while the whole camera is fixed to the vehicle, the sensor can still move because it is loosely suspended by the IBIS system. This creates the greater jitter that we see in the R5 footage with all IS systems off. The lens stabilization helps to eliminate jitter in both cameras, but it is still more noticeable, in my opinion, on the Canon R5. I'm not sure if digital IS on Canon R5C makes much difference for using this camera in a moving vehicle in my tests. Buying Canon R5C, I was very concerned that the lack of IBIS stabilization might hinder my ability to use this camera handheld to achieve smooth footage when moving with the camera without gimbal, while R5 camera still has an edge in image stabilization with the lens IS and IBIS both on. I feel that I will be able to work with R5C handheld, but would need to pay more attention to my camera moves. I also look forward to not dealing with artifacts produced by the IBIS when shooting at wider than 24mm focal distances and while still being able to use the lens IS in those shots. Thank you for watching. I hope it was useful. Please like and subscribe to let me know that you're interested in this type of content. See you in the next episode of my Canon R5C versus R5 series. Cheers!